Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
And we welcome you to it, this Tuesday edition of the show, all across the United States and Canada, wherever you may be watching on over 260 affiliates, or you could be watching us on the YouTube channel, the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. You could be listening on the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. No matter how you're taking in the show, we appreciate it. I'm glad to have you with us. Bruce Beck will join us coming up in about 20 minutes. Does a great job with NBC4 New York. Longtime sports anchor and sports director there. Longtime New York sportscaster. Worked on Knicks broadcasts back in the day with MSG Network. I mean, like 25, 30 years ago. And has been a staple of New York sports for a long time. He'll join us to put this Knicks NBA Finals appearance in perspective. We'll have that coming up a little later on. Sam Yarnell will be here. We'll talk hoops with him. There's plenty to get to from hockey, where the Hurricanes have responded after dropping game one of their Eastern Conference Final Series against the Canadiens 6-2. They have bounced back in a big way. Really, the only time you can look at this series, I know it's an overtime win and all this stuff, a couple of overtime wins for Carolina, but other than that first period of game one, what are you really getting excited about right now if you're a Canadiens fan? You're down 2-1 after getting the first game. Game four, obviously, a must for them now. We'll talk about that coming up a little later on as the Golden Knights prepare to try and vanquish the Colorado Avalanche on Tuesday night here in Las Vegas, where we reside and host the show from. So that is obviously going on. We'll get into that. Baseball, pitching continues to be the dominant theme. Pitching is the story of this baseball season through May 26th. Maybe as the weather heats up, that will start to change. But right now, it's all about pitching. Latest example last night taking place in Arlington, Texas, where the Rangers were no-hit by the Astros. Jacob Misiorowski continues to great things. We'll talk about that as well coming up a little later on. Odds and ends, a bizarre story, and maybe a bizarre finish to this whole Wander Franco story, what it could mean for his future in Major League Baseball as well. But with all that being said, we start things out as we always do on this Tuesday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story is the New York Knicks. They are headed to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999. Everybody's talking about Prince. Party like it's 1999. And New York Knicks fans were certainly doing that out at Radio City Music Hall last night, where they had a watch party, and the Knicks take care of business. They sweep the Cleveland Cavaliers in 4 games. And look, we could talk about whether or not game one was the turning point of this series. You don't often think of game ones being turning points of a series, but it's hard to not point to that moment where Cleveland comes in and takes it to the Knicks for 3.5 quarters and leads by 22 points with about 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and loses that game in dramatic fashion. They're a Sam Merrill 3 away from still winning that game despite their collapse in the fourth quarter at Madison Square Garden. And the fact they couldn't close the deal, and then overtime happens, and Jalen Brunson takes over, and the Knicks go on and win that game. And everything that came from that. And the end result being a Knicks sweep, and the Knicks just playing dominant basketball in this postseason. But that game one lift, after the long layoff and coming out sluggish in game one, Madison Square Garden was dead. It was quiet. And for them to win that game, rise like a phoenix from the ashes, and for Cleveland to lose it that way, and for James Harden to get torched the way he did on the defensive side of the ball, it just felt like it all unraveled there for the Cleveland Cavaliers. From the Knicks side of this, they're now going to have 9 days off. That could be a blessing and it could be a curse. With every team, it's different. But they're going to have 9 days off now. And what do you do during those 9 days if you're Mike Brown and this team? It's certainly an interesting question they're going to have to answer here over the next 9 days. I mean, how much do you scrimmage? How much do you play? How much do you let guys rest their bodies? And for some of these guys that have been red hot, like Landry Shamet, how are you going to be able to maintain that level of focus, that level of shooting when you're off for 9 days? I mean, that's an eternity in basketball. There is no break that you get in a season that is as long as the break the Knicks are going to have right now. You don't get breaks that long, not even the All-Star break. There are no breaks that long. So there is no blueprint for how to do this in a sound way. That's the Knicks. They'll either get the Spurs or the Thunder. We'll wait and see how it pans out. I think they beat the Spurs. I think they lose to the Thunder. Simple as that. I said it before the postseason started. You can go and check. Just go listen to the podcast, watch past shows. You'll see I've been saying that from the get-go. Now, with all that having been said, we need to talk about the Cavaliers. There needs to be a complete overhaul in Cleveland. From Donovan Mitchell to Kenny Atkinson and everything in between. Because it is obvious at this point. You made the move to get Harden to make you a championship team. And if every team has not learned the lesson by now, that you don't win championships with James Harden on your team, especially this version, this old version of James Harden on your team. If you haven't figured that out by now as a GM, you should be fired. Cleveland made the run at it. They tried to go and get him. They traded away Darius Garland. It obviously didn't work out. Now you need to take a look at this and stack it up with the rest of the East against the Celtics. Indiana's going to have Halliburton back next year. You'll see what they look like. The Knicks, the Pistons. You're going to have to stack all this up and decide, are we as currently comprised, when you take all the pieces and put them together, is this a championship team with a championship head coach? And you and I both know the answer. It's no. But does the organization know that? Does Dan Gilbert know that? He better, because he's at risk of being one of these teams that's going to be fun to watch during the regular season, can win 45 or 50 games, and has no chance of winning an NBA title, even in this version of the East. And they just found that out in a 4-game sweep against the Knicks. We'll have more on the Knicks' trip to the NBA Finals. Do a lot of that in the first half hour of the show. Sam Yarnell joins us in a couple of minutes. We're coming back. Welcome back to the show. You heard what I had to say in the big story. I have a feeling I know what this guy's going to say, but then again, maybe he'll throw me for a loop. Sam Yarnell is here. New York Knicks advanced to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1999, and for the third straight series, in a closeout game. They knew how to close the show. Cavaliers, not so much. By the way, next time your team thinks about trading for James Harden at the trade deadline, 33 minutes, 12 points, 2 of 8 shooting, with 5 turnovers for James Harden. 5 turnovers. He had 5 turnovers. He had 2 field goals in the game. And teams never learn, Sam Yarnell. I know the headline should be the Knicks, but I was just looking at this before we started doing this segment. And I'm just sitting here going, why? Why do teams do this to themselves every year with James Harden? It absolutely baffles and befuddles me. But let's make the Knicks the headline for just this moment. They're going to the NBA Finals for the first time since '99. They lost in 5 games that year because Patrick Ewing got hurt right before those finals started in heartbreaking fashion. And then you had 1994 where John Stark stunk up the joint, which I'm sure my good friend Bruce Beck will bring up when we talk to him and sort of reminisce and go down memory lane on the Knicks in our next segment. But thoughts on this prolific run from the Knicks. I know there's going to be some that say this has to do with who they're playing and it's the East. But at some point, and I hate to ever agree with Stephen A. Smith, at some point you've got to say it's the Knicks that are making these teams look this bad.
Yeah. Good basketball is good basketball, no matter who you're playing against. When it comes to that kind of thing, I think that there's not much to be made of that kind of, right. It's the playoffs. No matter what, no matter who you're playing, there are so many outside factors just from within your own team that can affect how you perform in the playoffs. You can't really, when you get all the way to the championship series, you can't really discount it as, oh, well, they haven't played anyone. That's not really fair to do to anyone in the whole sport. I got it just on the James Harden point. You make a great point. Don't know why nobody doesn't learn their lesson. Jason, I don't have the figures right in front of me. I believe it's the 37th or 38th game in the playoffs in James Harden's career where he's had more turnovers than made field goals. It's just a crazy statistic. It's utterly insane what happens to this guy when the calendar turns over to April and May in basketball. It's just wild. I don't know if anyone will ever be able to figure it out. Yeah, Kenny Atkinson, just an embarrassment. I mean, you and I talked about it on the show yesterday. Just an absolute embarrassment. There is no way that guy gets another shot in Cleveland. I'd be surprised if he gets another shot anywhere else in the National Basketball Association with the way that he treated this entire series, really, his team throughout this entire series. It just feels like a death sentence for Kenny Atkinson. On the other side, Mike Brown, and I'll say it to the point that you made, Jason, gosh, maybe a whole month ago at this point, Mike Brown has that job security now. He made it to the NBA Finals. You said if they don't make it to the NBA Finals, they might need to think about firing Mike Brown. They are definitely not going to be thinking about doing that at Madison Square Garden this offseason. He has done an incredible job. When you just think about kind of the difference between what Thibodeau's team looked like and what Mike Brown's team looked like with the same roster construction year over year, it is incredible what Mike Brown has been able to do when the calendar flipped over to the playoffs with this very roster. And it's because he wasn't playing Tibbs ball all year long. It truly is so impressive to see what the Knicks have done this season and then in this playoffs, Jason. I'm so happy for the city of New York that they've gotten this far. I guess the only qualm that I'll have is that this massive Knicks fan population who, and let's just be honest, 65% of crawled out of the woodwork last night when they were in a clinching game to send themselves to the finals. There's a large contingent of the Knicks fans that are taking this whole narrative from a couple of years ago that was Jalen Brunson is not the best player in an NBA Finals, right? And now these Knicks fans are changing this whole narrative, and they're saying, oh, well, look at this. Jalen Brunson, he's the best. I got news for you. Jalen Brunson, no matter what happens, no matter who they play, is not going to be the best player in this NBA Finals. You can mark my words by it now. And Knicks fans, the ones out there that are thinking that, you're absolutely crazy.
No, he's not going to be the best player no matter who they play. I mean, look. Knicks fans are going to get giddy about this team, and I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 days, both on this show and in SportsWrap Shorts, to make the point to say, let Knicks fans have it right now. There was a period from, basically 2003, 2004 through 2021, 2022, where this team was horrendous. And this franchise, and you know what? Credit to Leon Rose, for what he's done. You mentioned Mike Brown, the decision to basically change Karl Anthony Towns' role on this team, make him a point center, Cat embracing that, and what that has meant to this team. I mean, there's so many ways. There's so many ways in which you can look at this run by the Knicks and sort of, point to various aspects of it. The play they're getting from the bench, Landry Shamet, has been amazing.
He's been the best three-point shooter in the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But see, this is the problem, though. Now you got a week off.
Right.
Do those guys cool off a bit, guys like Shamet? Do they start to realize they're Landry Shamet? I hate to say it. I'm a Knicks fan. But, eventually the clock strikes midnight on every Cinderella story. And as great as they've been, this still, to some degree, when you match them up against the West, feels like a Cinderella story. Now, I said before the playoffs started, when we had Kurt Heelan on the show, I thought if they got the Spurs, if they could avoid Boston, Everything's broken right from a who they had to play standpoint. They need one more thing to break their way, Sam. If they get the Spurs in the finals, I think they win the championship. I do. If they get the Thunder, I think they lose in 5 or 6. I don't even think it makes it to a 7th game because I just think it's a bad matchup. And everything is matchup predicated still for this Knicks team. Despite what you've seen in these playoffs, the matchups have been favorable to them. It's the Hawks, the 76ers, and the Cavaliers with James Harden. So to me, it's matchup predicated still. They get the Spurs, I think they win a title. They get the Thunder, I think they lose.
It'll be 2 completely different series based on whoever they play, based on whoever wins the Western Conference Finals. I will say to your point, Knicks fans, this is why you live through Jeremy Lin and Carmelo Anthony and Taj Gibson. Yeah. It's to get to this moment right here.
We're coming back. Welcome back to this Tuesday edition of the show. You've heard what I had to say in the big story. Let's go right to the belly of the beast in New York. Bring in our friend Bruce Beck, NBC4 New York, longtime sports anchor and sports director there. And gosh, I mean, were you even working at MSG back when the Knicks were in the finals in 94 and 99 back then?
So I am such a Knick guy in the sense, I don't really talk about it much, but in 69-70, I was there, Game 7, as a fan. My dad was a Knicks season ticket holder, and I was there when the Knicks won Game 7, and Clyde had 36 points and 19 assists, and they captured the NBA title. That was the 69-70 season, and I was there in the 72-73 season. Then as a broadcaster, in 99, I was there covering Allen Houston and that crazy shot that went in the first number 8 seed to get to the finals. So, yes, I've been at MSG since 97, so I was part of that run. And in 94, I was actually working for MSG, and that was my last year there when the Rangers captured the cup. And John Stark shot the Knicks out of the NBA Finals in Game 7. But this is different. And in a sense, Jason, it's the same because I see the qualities of the 69-70 Knicks in this group. They're selfless, they're unselfish, and they just have a great chemistry and cohesiveness that's very hard to define.
Yeah, it's been a magical run. Bruce Beck hanging out with us on SportsWrap, and I always love to get his perspective because he has been around New York sports for so long. I'm trying to wrap my arms around the fact that, and a lot of people will say, 'cause we're on all over the country, you get a lot of people that say this is a product of the East. This is Philadelphia. It's Atlanta. It's Philadelphia, who was craptastic all year until they figured out a way to beat the Celtics. And then it's Cleveland with James Harden. So you knew that Cleveland wasn't going to go that far with James Harden, given what his entire career has been. As somebody who's seen this team a lot this year, being in New York, and seeing the struggles they had at various points throughout the year, when you analyze it all, how much it is it them? How much of it is the East?
I think a lot of it is them. They're playing great basketball, and things changed in Atlanta. They were down 2-1, and Mike Brown made this not so subtle change where Karl Anthony Towns became the point center and started basically orchestrating the offense, becoming the facilitator, and the ball was less in Jalen Brunson's hands. I agree this is a down year in the East. I thought the Celtics might have presented the Knicks with their toughest challenge, or the Pistons because of their defensive-minded nature and Cade Cunningham, and they beat the Knicks very easily during the regular season. They didn't play either of those two teams, but they did beat Atlanta by 51, Philly by 30, and Cleveland by 37 in elimination games, which is insane. And the fact that they've outscored opponents by 262 points in those 11 consecutive wins means they're not just getting by. They're playing great basketball, shooting at a high percentage, multitude of assists, team defense, team offense, good coaching, and a very solid bench. They've got the depth. So, Jason, yes, I agree. I'm eager to see what's going to happen with the West. I think both of those teams are much better than the teams the Knicks have played. But I thought the Knicks would get to the West and get to the final of the NBA and then get shellacked. I don't feel that way now.
I have been adamant from before the start of this postseason. I thought there was a path for the Knicks to win the title. And so far, that path has taken shape. My belief was if they got the Spurs in the finals, I think they win. If they get the Thunder in the finals, I think it's a bad matchup. I think they lose. I don't think they get beaten in 4 or 5 gentlemen sweep, but 6 wouldn't be wouldn't be crazy to me that they lose in 6 to the Thunder. I think the Thunder are a bad matchup for them, but I've seen them enough against the Spurs.
Yes.
I went to the NBA Cup final game here in Vegas. I've seen them enough against the Spurs to think they can run with the Spurs for 6 or 7, and I think they can win that series. But I just don't think they match up well against Oklahoma City. If Jalen Williams, especially if Jalen Williams is playing more so, if Jalen Williams isn't playing, it obviously changes the dynamic of that series. Go ahead.
So my thoughts are exactly what you said about the Spurs. I think the Knicks can beat the Spurs. I think the Spurs are a year or two away from being a dynastic team. And they're really good, but they're all under 23. I mean, the average age is the lowest in the history of the finals or of the NBA playoffs, per se, of team getting to the conference finals. I think Oklahoma City is different, though, now because of what the Knicks have on their resume in the postseason and the fact that they're a banged-up team. And they might be playing a 7-game series. Now, the Knicks benefited from Cleveland playing a 7-game series. They benefited from Philly having to play a 7-game series. So they've gotten a lot of breaks along the way. Atlanta actually played them better than anybody. They were doubling Brunson. They were beating him up physically, but they just weren't good enough. And the Knicks kind of started this steamrolling effect. So I think the Knicks can win it all. I don't know if they will win it all, but I think that they're going to be very close to even. Maybe Oklahoma City favored by a little if they get there, but OKC still has to beat San Antonio. The Knicks get this long break again, and you have a team in the Thunder that's got to get healthy a little bit.
Jalen Brunson's place in history, if he wins a title as the front man for this team, where do you put him in Knicks lore as somebody that, again, has followed this team for so many years?
I hear that Mount Rushmore stuff all the time.
I didn't even want to say the Mount Rushmore thing.
How many are there? 4?
Yeah.
So Clyde's got to be there, and Ewing has to be there, and probably Willis has to be there. Is there a spot on the outside corner ahead of Carmelo and Earl and Bernard King and Bill Bradley and Dick Barnett and Dave DeBusschere? Maybe. I think that he's definitely top 5 or 6 ever if he wins a title, and he's got a long runway still ahead of him. What he's doing is magnificent, and he does it in such a quiet way. Jason, there was a quote after the game 3 in Cleveland, and they asked Brunson about the focus for the next game. This is Mr. Understated. You have the first possession, the first quarter, and then you have the end of the first half, and you go on. I mean, that's not verbose stuff, but that's Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. Bruce Beck, always appreciate you, my friend. Always grateful for your time. Enjoy the NBA Finals. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Chase. Always great to talk to you.
Great to be with you on this Tuesday edition of the show. Wherever you may be watching, however you may be watching or listening on the podcast. A lot of NBA in the first half hour of the show with the Knicks advancing to the NBA Finals. Thanks to Bruce Beck for stopping by the show. I'll bring in Sam Yarnell for a second. Let's put up the other graphic that we had up before, since we're still talking about the Knicks. I made the argument and asked the question of Bruce Beck. And you're based in the Northeast now, formerly a DC guy, now in Jersey. who, I made the argument, are the Knicks the most starved fan base or the most passionate fan base? Are they, when you just talk about New York City sports? And Bruce Beck said he thinks it's passion from the Knicks fans as opposed to, you look at the watch parties and all that stuff. He thinks they might even be the most passionate fan base in all of sports, Sam Yarnell. So is it starvation and desperation? Is it Tom Cruise in Castaway just looking for that drop of water? Or is it they are the most passionate fan base, Sam?
Well, listen, I'm never going to hold anything against our good friend Bruce Beck. And as someone who has now lived, I was actually doing the math as you brought that up. I've lived in the New York City area for the last 8 years of my life, which is crazy to think about. But in doing that, I've become almost too familiar with the New York media scene and the New York media market and how that kind of machine works and how very, very, very easy it is to get caught up in all of it, as we see national outlets, quite frankly, doing more frequently than not. But yet, no. The Knicks do not have the most passionate fan base. Starvation is one thing, and we can certainly talk about that. When you think about New York, and now we're going to get into a little bit of a different subject. When you think about New York as a whole, right, you think about all their fan bases, they're starved across the board, right? So it's not just Knicks fans specifically. New York fans, as crazy as it is to think about, as much as, everyone doesn't want to admit it, New York is one of the most starved cities for a pro sports title among the cities in the United States that have multiple sports, right? You think about it. LA's won one very recently. DC has won multiple very recently. You think about a place like Chicago, who had a dynasty within the last decade. New York sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of a city where you can't get a single team really even to the finals, excluding a couple of weird Yankee and Mets years where they both threw up all over themselves every time they did. So the starvation certainly is there, but when we're talking about passion, Jason, the New York Knicks rank as the third most passionate fan base in the state of New York. You look out to Western New York, and I think anybody who knows sports across the board would argue to you, especially having watched the NHL playoffs over the course of the last month, that Buffalo Sabres fan base and that Buffalo Bills fan base, a lot more passionate than that New York Knicks fan base. Maybe more starved, too.
We digressed a little bit here, so I don't want to give short shrift here to the Carolina Hurricanes, who rally, get themselves a win in overtime, beat Montreal 3-2 on Monday night, Sam Yarnell, to put themselves within 2 wins of a trip to a Stanley Cup final. Have they? I know you already had thought the winning game 2 sort of steadied the ship for them. So does that mean with this game 3 win, they've completely grabbed back control of this series?
It feels like yes, it does. But Jason, at the same time, watching that game last night, man, and again, classic this time of the year problem for Sam Yarnell to have: split screen in the NBA and the NHL, and by the end of the first quarter, you knew the Knicks were moving on. That was just a disgrace to putting on our TVs for multiple hours of last night. So I went full screen on the hockey game, and man, that thing was a heavyweight bout. I mean, these teams were just trading body blows back and forth. It was really fun to watch. It was a fun to watch hockey game. I will say, Jason, it does feel like the Hurricanes have taken that proverbial step past the Montreal Canadiens, just because, having watched a 7-game series with this Montreal Canadiens team, 2 of them, to be honest, back to back, you look at how Montreal played in both of those series, and it kind of feels like the script has flipped a little bit in this one. In the other series, Montreal was able to have other teams continually trying to catch up to them, having to, they were a step ahead of other teams, it felt like, at all times, whether it be the Lightning or the Sabres. Feels like they're always a step behind Carolina in this series. So I'm going to ride it out with Carolina. I think we're going to get Carolina and Vegas in the Stanley Cup final.
Bad break for Montreal in the third period too. The offsides call. I mean, you're talking just fractions of an inch on that offsides call, and it goes to show you the importance of replay in some sports that get it right versus some sports that don't. And then Andrei Svechnikov winning it at 14:06 of overtime for this Carolina team that is now up 2-1 in the series. And you've got game number 4 tonight with the Golden Knights trying to wrap things up here in Vegas against the Avalanche. Feels like sort of a lock that they would wrap this thing up tonight, but we'll have to obviously wait and see what happens there.
Well, you never know. You look at at the time that we're putting the show together, we don't know if McKinnon's going to play or not. They've obviously been keeping that under wraps. Right now, you look at the betting lines, and it feels like that he could. It feels like he could, but
it's crazy.
Jason, I watched the guy. I watched the guy's kneecap look like it exploded in Game 3. I don't understand how he's going to get on skates, but more power to him. I hope he does. It would be one hell of a comeback if the Avalanche are able to pull this off.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
Me either.
And the Golden Knights will get a nice little rest while the Canadiens and Hurricanes beat each other up. At least they hope so for a few days. All right, we're coming back. Some baseball to get to. Some great pitching next. All right, Odds and Ends wraps it up in 10 minutes. We'll get to some baseball here, but there's also a baseball note I want to get to in Odds and Ends. That involves somebody that hasn't been around the game for a couple of years. But Sam Yarnell, pitching just continues to be the story of this 2026 season. You know, all the things baseball's tried to do to improve, it's all, chicks dig the long ball and let's make the game more offensive. Let's make bigger bases. You can only throw over a couple of times. We think that the automated ball strike thing was going to help hitters more. Well, not so much. Pitching continues to really be the story, Sam. In this 2026 season, you keep waiting for that script to sort of flip, but it hasn't really happened yet. First no-hitter of the season. I didn't realize there were no no-hitters in baseball last year. Is that possible? There were no no-hitters in baseball. So the first no-hitter since 2024 goes to the Astros of all teams, who can't get out of their own way. A combined no-hitter, not the first time they've done that, just ask Yankee fans. And the Astros get the no-hitter on the road in Texas against the Rangers last night, led by a guy that we haven't really talked about much since he got to the U.S.
Yeah, well, that's because arguments to be made amongst baseball people. The Tatsuya Imai signing in an offseason where there were a plethora of guys coming over from overseas. The Tatsuya Imai signing might be the absolute worst. Like, that might come back. Yeah. And well, let's be honest. It's helped put the Astros in the hole that they're in. And it's funny. I was talking to someone over the weekend about the Astros because they're horrible. And I'll get to the American League West and more specifically the American League in a second. But my gosh, the Astros are horrible. And, Jason, they had a great run. And it's kind of like what we should be seeing with the Golden State Warriors. The Astros are actually managing their franchise correctly. This is how a dynasty ends, people. We're watching a dynasty die. This is how it dies, right? Altuve is basically done for he's out for an extended period of time. Correa, I think, done for the year at this point, right? Like the Josh Hader. What the hell happened to that guy? He was supposed to come back by Memorial Day. Nope, not going to happen. It sucks when you watch a dynasty die. It's what we're watching in Houston right now. It's cool that they get this moment to kind of celebrate, and the Santa kid, the rookie, throwing his first 2 innings ever, and they're 2 perfect innings to close the game. That's cool stuff. That's baseball stuff that you'll find. But man, it has been a horrible, horrible, horrible season for the Houston Astros. At least they'll be able to get something really nice and really shiny for Christian Walker at the deadline. They'll be able to get something really nice and really shiny for Jordan Alvarez at the deadline. But outside of that,
I don't think they're going to trade Jordan. I don't think they'll trade Jordan.
They're not going to compete within his window at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe
that
not,
division,
but they would
you
be
can
foolish.
turn it. See, I disagree. I think in that division, which has a whole bunch of mediocrity in it, I don't think it takes a lot to turn around. I mean, Sam, They're 4 games out. They're 3.5 games out of first right now. And I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, that it's going to be some miraculous, rally here and this team's going to come back. But I mean, we've seen that division year after year. That's not a murderer's row sort of division. I don't think you trade Jordan, because if he's healthy, he's easily one of the best offensive players in all of baseball. Look at what he's doing right now as an example of that with nothing around him.
Yeah, the problem is they have absolutely no pitching. Their offense is great, Jason. Their offense is wonderful. They have no pitching whatsoever. They have no pitching up with them right now. Egg on my face, because it turns out Hunter Brown isn't as good as we all thought he was going to be. Lance McCullers, that experiment's done. Like, this team has no pitching whatsoever. It's great that they threw a no-hitter. The guy who threw 6 innings of the no-hitter, they were thinking about DFAing and sending him back to Japan a week ago. So, like, this team is... and it sucks. It does, because we are so used. And I understand why you think that. It is force of habit for those of us who have paid attention to baseball for literally the last decade and a half. But the fact of the matter is, the Astros just don't have it the way that they used to, where you could say, yeah, well, but they've got this and that, and they could turn it around. Everyone's gotten old. Everyone's gotten hurt. It's just, this is how dynasties die. This is what happens.
And it might very well be. I don't think Jordan gets traded. I don't see it.
I would be more surprised at him being traded than Christian Walker, but again, we're talking about a shock level of... Christian Walker's already gone. Christian Walker might as well already be on another team. Jordan Alvarez, maybe call it 50-50s in a Houston Astros uniform after the season.
Jacob Mizorowski. I had this conversation with our friend David Ardsma on the show. This guy's arm's going to explode one day. It really, this cannot be sustainable for a guy to be throwing over 100 miles an hour 57 times in a game. Maybe he's this freak and this anomaly that could continue to do this. I think eventually one day he winds up being a closer, because I feel like his stuff is more suited to that. But I think it's nuts that you've got a guy out there doing what he's doing on a start-in, start-out basis. All the power to him. It's fun to watch, but I'm just waiting for the day his arm snaps.
Yeah, well, historically, I've been one to agree with you. Like, as recently as this season, when he suffered like his second injury of his career in 2 years. But the thing is, the guy's not hurting his arm. He gets hurt and he's hurting his legs.
Yeah.
He's hurting his groin. So, like, I don't know. And maybe it's the 6'8". Maybe it's something. I don't know about the kid. What I will say is the Milwaukee Brewers have done it again, man. Right when you think that they're done doing it, they've done it again. And this Mizorowski kid's going to contend for the Cy Young. And oh, by the way, he's not even fronting their rotation. The guy who's fronting their rotation might be better than Jacob Mizorowski and Kyle Harrison right now. It is absolutely bonkers what this Milwaukee Brewers franchise does year in and year out when it comes to pitching. And the offense isn't all that bad either.
Plus 71 run differential. When we talk about that around baseball, it's one of the best in all of the league. Cubs are still struggling as well. We ran out of time to get to that. Odds and ends right around the corner. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Tuesday. Some reminders before we go. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show, crystal clear audio, Monday through Friday. We encourage you to do so. Seeing some nice numbers on the audio podcast side of the show. Sometimes we've got bonus podcasts that go up there as well. Working on some things in that regard too. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. Sports Wrap with Jason Page, the YouTube channel. This is the place to find all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show available to you. 45 minutes, commercial free, waiting there like a friend giving you a warm hug. Early every afternoon, go and check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Extended conversations also available there. We talked with Bruce Beck today on the show. The conversation was double the length of time that we actually had allotted for. So if you go to the YouTube channel, you could actually see the full conversation where we talked about a whole litany of things involving the Knicks and this magical run that they've made to the NBA Finals. Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel also has Sports Wrap Shorts, 1 to 3 minute long vertical videos covering the top stories in sports, sometimes not even the top stories in sports. Sports Wrap Shorts available on the YouTube channel. Also available on our TikTok, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, that same name, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay on this Tuesday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Before I get to the Wander Franco stuff, we were just talking about it in the break. Cubs have been miserable lately. Of all the years for the Pirates to finally be decent again, Henry Davis, turns out to be the game-winning home run yesterday as the Pirates knock off the Cubs, who have lost 9 in a row. The Cubs are like total Jekyll and Hyde this year. I mean, and by the way, ever since Pete Crow Armstrong told a fan to, perform a certain act on him, ever since then, they haven't won, by the way. So it's the curse of the PCA. Just wanted to put that out there.
It's the curse of the Alex Bregman, man. I mean, my gosh. Yeah. Also, and it's funny. I was thinking about it over the weekend.
Yeah.
I was talking to people and thinking about it over the weekend. Kyle Tucker leaving that lineup absolutely destroyed that team. You did not realize how valuable of a lineup piece, not even just a hitter, not even just a fielder, how valuable of a consistent lineup piece Kyle Tucker was until he was gone. Man, not re-signing Kyle Tucker, I just absolutely destroyed that team. Absolutely tore that team to shreds.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Pirates 28-26. They'd be in first place if they were in the American League West. Instead, they're dead last in the National League Central.
3-game set coming up with the Cubbies. I mean, Cubbies keep going the way they're going. Cubbies going to be in last place before we know it.
Crazy.
They get swept in this series. They're in last place in the Central.
Wander Franco may not serve a second of jail time. This wild story out of the Dominican Republic in this whole instance with him and an underage girl, the mother. If you don't know about it by now, you've been sleeping in a cave. I'm not going to recap the whole thing. It's kind of disturbing. Here's the thing. If he doesn't serve a second of jail time, is there any way he winds up back in Major League Baseball, Sam?
No, there's not. And
everybody's monitoring the
Jason,
situation.
That was my immediate reaction too, and then I thought about it, and the thought that came to my head was, well, we've actually seen this before, and we're seeing it right now in front of our own eyes. Someone who you're very acquainted with, Trevor Bauer. It's the exact same thing that happened to Trevor Bauer. It is to a T. It is the exact same thing that happened to Trevor Bauer. So yeah, no one's going to touch him with a 10-foot pole for a multitude of reasons. He's 2 years older than the last time he was in Major League Baseball. He hasn't seen Major League pitching for over 20 months, right? And you don't know what you're getting. You don't know what you're getting from a PR standpoint. So there are 3 reasons that no Major League Baseball team is going to even touch that guy with a 10-foot pole. I would be beyond shocked. Now, when we talk about him staying in the Dominican Republic and staying in, maybe playing in Mexican winter ball, that kind of thing, sure, those doors are always open. It feels like, those kinds of teams are more in it for whatever talent they could be possibly getting out of it than whatever PR may come of it. But yeah, I would be shocked beyond belief if we ever saw Wander Franco even on a minor league baseball field again.
I'd be shocked too, but again, I've seen so many guys that get second chances in baseball, not named Trevor Bauer, that get opportunities that you just wonder. I mean,
who else didn't get a second chance? You know who else didn't get a second chance though? And this is more along the same lines in a different way, but also in American sports. Karl Malone didn't get a second chance. And this is the same thing as Karl Malone. Even worse.
Oh, the details of the whole thing are crazy, and the fact that he's
mother getting 10 years in prison.
The mother's getting whacked.
Jaw-dropper.
The mother's getting whacked, and he's going to be like going off scot-free. It's kind of nuts. It's going to do it for us on this Tuesday edition of the show. Sam is off tomorrow. We'll have our friend David Ardsma here on the show. I miss having you with David. It's just not the same.
Me too.
Wednesdays are not the same without you and David at the same time. Kurt Heelan will be here from Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, as he's probably got his tickets packed, his tickets booked, and his bags packed to go to New York for the NBA Finals. Thank you to Bruce Beck. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. All of you at home for watching. I'm Jason Page. That does it for Sports Wrap. We'll see you back here on Wednesday.